Good day, everyone, and welcome to the PAHAYAG Election Report by PUBLiCUS Asia Inc. I'm Aureli Sinsuat, Executive Director of PUBLiCUS, and your host for today. On today's episode, we will focus on the sentiments of the 7.3 million registered voters who reside in Metro Manila, the economic center and seat of government of the Philippines, by revealing the results of our first PAHAYAG NCR Election Tracker Survey. Between February 18 to 24, 2022, PUBLiCUS Asia asked 1,625 registered Filipino voters residing in Manila two simple questions. Who are you voting for mayor of your city? Who are you voting for vice mayor of your city? Our survey included 100 respondents from each NCR city, except for Pateros and San Juan, where the sample size was reduced to 50 and 75 respondents respectively, due to operational constraints. The members of our purposive survey panel were randomly selected from the research panel marketplace of 200,000 Filipinos maintained by PureSpectrum, a US-based panel marketplace with a multinational presence. Parameters based on respondent age, gender, and location were also utilized in the sample formulation in order for the resulting sample to conform more closely to the features of the voting population as defined by statistics from the COMELEC. Samples provided by PureSpectrum are not affiliated with any bias or political party. All opinions voiced in the interpretation and analysis of the data are those of the writer and/or project sponsor. Before we move on to the results, please take the time to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on the state of the race leading up to the May election. Now, onto the results, which will be presented in alphabetical order by city name. In Caloocan, Congressman Along Malapitan is leading the race for mayor with 52% of the vote. Councilor Karina Te is leading the vice mayoral race with 36% of the vote. However, 38% of Caloocan voters surveyed said they are still undecided about their vote for vice mayor. In Las Piñas, incumbent Mayor Imelda Aguilar is number one among 8 candidates vying for her seat, with 42% of the vote. Vice Mayor April Aguilar Neri is leading the vice mayoral race at 44%. However, 42% of Las Piñas respondents were undecided about their vice mayoral vote. The incumbents are also running strong in Makati. 68% of Makati respondents support the re-election of Mayor Abby Binay, while 60% also support the re-election of Vice Mayor Monique Lagdameo. Malabon Councilor Enzo Oreta leads the city's mayoral race at 41%. Former Vice Mayor Jeannie Sandoval is in a close second place at 32%, which is within our survey's 10% assumed margin of error. Vice Mayor Ninong de la Cruz leads the VM race at 41%. The Abalos family maintains a strong lead in the Mandaluyong mayoral and vice mayoral races. Benjamin Abalos, who seeks to return as mayor, earned 64% of the vote. Incumbent Mayor Menchi Abalos, now running for vice mayor, earned 66% of the vote among Mandaluyong respondents. In Manila, incumbent Vice Mayor Honey Lacuna leads the mayoral race at 44%. The second highest vote getter after undecided was attorney Alex Lopez, with 10% of the vote. Former Congressman Amado Bagaching came in third place with 8%. The Manila vice mayoral race is quite contentious, with undecided earning a plurality of votes at 32%. Congressman Yul Servo Nieto received 27% of the votes for vice mayor, followed by Raymond Bagaching at 19%. Mayor Marcy Teodoro is currently winning his re-election bid in Marikina with 62% of the vote. Incumbent Vice Mayor Marion Andres narrowly edged out undecided to lead the vice mayoral race with 39% of the vote. Representative Rufy Biazon leads the mayoral race in Muntinlupa at 55%. Vice Mayor Temi Sumundak is leading the vice mayor race with 39% of the vote. In Navotas, Representative John Ray Tiangco leads the race for mayor at 51%. Councilor Tito Sanchez leads the vice mayoral race with 42% of the vote. Congressman Eric Olivares leads the mayoral race in Parañaque at 63%. More than 35% of voters are undecided about the vice mayoral race. Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano is ahead in the Pasay mayoral race at 53%. almost half of all respondents were undecided about their pick for vice mayor. In Pasig City, Mayor Vico Soto garnered an astonishing 92% of the vote for mayor among respondents. His running mate, Dodot Jaworski, leads the vice mayoral race at 38%. Pateros Mayor Ike Ponce leads the municipality's mayoral race at 62%. Carlos Santos leads John Peter Marzan in the vice mayoral race 40 points to 32 points. Mayor Joy Belmonte and Vice Mayor Gian Soto are winning their respective bids for re-election in Quezon City, with 57 and 47% of the vote, respectively. San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora also enjoys a comfortable lead in his re-election bid, with 68% of the vote on our survey. Vice Mayor Warren Villa also leads the San Juan vice mayoral race at 45%. Representative Lani Cayetano leads the mayoral race in Taguig with 75% of the vote. Alvin Alet leads the vice mayoral race at 39%, although 36% of respondents said they were still undecided about their vote for vice mayor. Finally, in Valenzuela City, Congressman Wes Gatchalian enjoys an overwhelming lead in the mayoral race, with 85% of the vote. Incumbent Vice Mayor Lori Natividad Borja leads the vice mayoral race at 78%. Joining us now is the Chief Data Scientist of PUBLiCUS, Dr. David Barua Yap Jr., to provide deeper insights into the Feb 18 to 24 NCR Election Tracker Survey. Good day to you, David.
Good day, Areli. Hello, everyone.
So, David, based on our survey results, what do you think about the NCR mayoral and vice mayoral races in general?
So, based on our late February survey, the races in NCR are shaping up to be boring. With the average gap between the first place candidate and the second place candidate hovering around the 50% mark on average. If you ask me, I think this is the incumbency advantage at play, wherein incumbent mayors are in a very good position heading into either their second or third term of office.
How about the vice mayoral races, David? Like, how would the competitiveness of the race compare for mayor and the vice mayoral races?
I would say that the races for vice mayor are a bit more competitive because the average margin between the first place candidate and the second place candidate is half what we observed for the mayoral races. But even at 25%, that still represents a wide average margin. It's however of note that the share of undecided respondents, the average share of undecided respondents is markedly greater in the races for vice mayor. So it's comparatively more competitive, but I would still think that those in positions currently have the advantage over challengers.
Now, David, among the races for mayor specifically, which are the races or in which cities did you see the most huge incumbency advantages?
So, looking at the 17 cities, the largest margins were observed in Valenzuela and in Pasig, wherein the incumbent candidates, or in the case of Valenzuela, Congressman Wes Gatchalian, they're both near 90%. Their margins, the leads that they have over their closest rivals, are close to 90%.
I mean, that's a 90% lead is certainly a large lead. What could we attribute that to? Or, well, we've been talking about the incumbency advantage, but what is it about incumbency, especially in Metro Manila, it seems, that makes it such a big advantage for those who are seeking re-election or are seeking to replace a relative in a position or things like that?
I think it has something to do with brand recognition. It's kind of an easy way for people to decide, because it's something that is familiar. And if the incumbent candidate is has a track record that is not rife with failures or issues or scandals, it's very difficult to convince people to vote for an alternative candidate. I think what we're seeing here, apart from the incumbency advantage, or rather, the incumbency advantage is built on the idea of loss aversion, or what behavioral economists call as the endowment effect. People are more inclined to vote for something that is familiar than opt for a risky change. This of course is in line with ideas of continuity and the desire to see current reforms of the incumbents continue. They would want these incumbent mayors to have longer runways for reform. Generally, if people are not particularly angry with their their performance in the past 3 or 6 years, then with the endowment effect in mind, I it's very difficult to convince voters to vote for a new candidate.
So, David, in these mayoral races, what can the challengers do to make it a more competitive race?
Well, apart from campaigning harder than the incumbents, which is a tall order, they have to put forward compelling argument in a way that is in a messaging strategy that would reach the broadest section of the electorate possible. If you consider the timeline, they only have less than 2.5 months left, so there isn't much time to pivot away from existing messaging strategies. So at this point, I'm inclined to think that the best that they can do is to pound on some doors and intensify their campaign operations.
Now, well, David, while some of the races are not so competitive anymore, it does look like there are somewhat races to watch in Metro Manila, especially for mayor. What are a couple of the races that you think we should all be closely watching as the May election comes sooner?
Well, as a resident of Quezon City, and you are a resident of Quezon City as well, we're both particularly interested in the race for our hometown. Apart from that, I would think that another race of consequence would be the race for Manila mayor, with Mayor Dumagosa running for president. This is a big opportunity for other personalities in that city to take up the mantle of mayor. It is also worth watching uh, the race for Malabon, for the very simple reason that it registered the narrowest gap across all 17 cities. So that might prove to be interesting. But as an important note, it is important to emphasize that our sample sizes translate to very large margins of error. And if you look at Malabon in particular, even if you look at the gap as something that is within the margin of error, I would still give the incumbent a clear advantage heading into May.
As always, David, thank you so much for taking the time to join our program, and we look forward to the next survey results for our other Pahayag surveys when they come out.
Thank you, Aureli, and we'll see you again next time.
For PUBLiCUS Asia Incorporated, I am Aureli Sinsuat, and thank you for joining us again today on our episode of the Pahayag Election Report. To stay up to date with the latest data on the 2022 elections, make sure to subscribe to our PUBLiCUS Asia YouTube channel. We will see you again soon for the results of our next survey. Thank you and have a great day.